I discovered something about my best friend. I wish I didn't. Before this story gets started, I want to hear from you first. What part of the world are you watching from? Tell me in the comments below. You may relate to this story more than you expect. Have you ever discovered something so disturbing that your brain refuses to accept it at first? Not because it is impossible, but because accepting it would destroy everything you thought you knew about someone you trusted with your life. That is exactly what happened to me. And looking back now, I wish I had ignored the signs. I wish I had deleted the message. I wish I had never opened that basement door. But if I had, I probably would not be alive today. It started on a Thursday evening in late October. Cold rain hammered the streets outside my apartment while the city glowed under sheets of water and flickering traffic lights. The sound of distant sirens blended with the constant hiss of tires cutting through wet asphalt below my window. I had just gotten home from work. My apartment smelled faintly of coffee grounds, old books, and the cedarwood candle I always kept near the kitchen counter. Nothing special, just the familiar comfort of routine. I tossed my keys into the ceramic bowl beside the door and loosened my tie while walking toward the living room. That was when my phone buzzed. One message. From my best friend, Darren. I remember smiling the moment I saw his name. That is the part that hurts the most now. Because at the time, Darren was more than a friend to me. He was family. We had known each other for almost 15 years. Met during our freshman year of college after some drunk idiot tried stealing my backpack outside a campus diner at 2 a.m. Darren stepped in without hesitation and punched the guy so hard the thief stumbled into a newspaper stand. That night became the foundation of everything. We survived failed relationships together. Terrible jobs. Evictions. Breakdowns. Funerals. Darren was there when my father died. I was there when his marriage collapsed. There are certain people in life you stop questioning because they become woven into your identity. You trust them automatically. Blindly. That was Darren. Or at least that was who I thought he was. I unlocked my phone and opened the message. You home? Simple. Normal. Nothing strange about it. I typed back immediately. Yeah. Just got in. What's up? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then finally. Need to talk. Can I come over? Something about the wording felt off. Darren was not formal with me. Ever. Normally he would text something stupid like, open the door before I freeze to death. Or, I'm stealing your whiskey tonight. But this message felt tense. Careful. Like somebody choosing words too deliberately. I stared at the screen for a second before replying. Sure. 20 minutes later, he arrived. The moment I opened the door, I knew something was wrong. Rainwater dripped from his dark jacket onto the hallway floor. His hair was soaked flat against his forehead, and his breathing looked shallow, uneven. But it was his eyes that unsettled me. Darren had always carried this calm confidence about him. Even during stressful situations, he looked composed. Not tonight. Tonight he looked exhausted. Worse than exhausted. Terrified. You okay? I asked. He forced a smile that collapsed almost instantly. Yeah, he muttered. Just tired. Lie. Immediate lie. I stepped aside and let him in. The apartment suddenly felt smaller once he entered. The atmosphere shifted in a way I still cannot fully explain, like invisible pressure filling the room. Darren removed his jacket slowly and draped it over a chair near the entrance. His hands were shaking. That caught my attention immediately. Darren never shook. Not even at his father's funeral. I walked toward the kitchen. You want coffee or something stronger? Whiskey. Fast answer. Too fast. I poured us both a drink while he wandered toward the living room windows. Outside, rain streaked across the glass while neon reflections from nearby buildings pulsed across his face in shifting colors. Blue, red, white. He looked pale, like he had not slept in days. I handed him the glass. He took a long swallow immediately. Then another. Silence stretched between us. Finally, I sat down across from him. So what's going on? Darren rubbed his jaw. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he looked directly at me. You trust me, right? I laughed lightly. Of course. No matter what. That question landed strangely. I frowned. What kind of question is that? He leaned forward slowly. If something happened, something bad, you'd tell me first before anybody else, right? The room suddenly felt colder. What are you talking about? He opened his mouth, then stopped. His eyes shifted briefly toward my hallway, toward the back of the apartment. That tiny movement lasted maybe half a second, but I noticed it. And somehow, instinctively, my stomach tightened. Darren cleared his throat. Forget it. What? I'm being paranoid. He stood abruptly and walked toward the kitchen like he needed movement. Like sitting still was impossible for him. I watched him carefully now. Every gesture. Every breath. Something was deeply wrong. You're scaring me a little, I admitted. He laughed quietly, but there was no humor in it. You should be. Then he froze. Complete stillness. His eyes locked onto something behind me. I turned instinctively. Nothing. Just my dark hallway leading toward the bathroom and bedroom. When I looked back at Darren, his expression had changed again. Panic. Pure panic. He walked toward me quickly. Have you noticed anything weird lately? What do you mean weird? Anybody following you? No. Anybody asking questions about me? No. Anybody coming to your apartment? I stared at him. Darren, what the hell is this about? He ran both hands over his face aggressively. You ever get the feeling your life isn't actually yours anymore? I blinked. What? He laughed again. This time it sounded broken. You know what's funny? Most people think betrayal feels dramatic when it happens, like fireworks or screaming or violence. He pointed toward his chest. But usually it starts quietly. Tiny things. Tiny lies. The rain outside intensified. Thunder rolled somewhere in the distance. Darren stepped closer and lowered his voice. If something happens to me, stop. I'm serious. No, I snapped. You don't get to come in here acting like some paranoid maniac and say cryptic nonsense all night. Tell me what's happening. For the first time since arriving, he looked angry. Not at me. At himself. You really don't know, do you? Know what? His mouth tightened. Then suddenly his phone rang. The sound exploded through the apartment so sharply both of us flinched. Darren stared at the screen, and all the color drained from his face. I still remember that moment perfectly. The harsh white light from his phone illuminating his terrified expression. The trembling in his fingers. The silence. He declined the call immediately, then turned the phone face down. Who was that? I asked. No one. Another lie. Then the phone buzzed again. This time with a message. Darren grabbed it before I could see the screen. Too fast. Way too fast. Now my own nerves were activating, because suddenly every strange detail from the past few months began replaying in my mind. Darren canceling plans unexpectedly. Late night calls he refused to explain. Random disappearances. Bruises he brushed off as accidents. Even his divorce suddenly looked different in hindsight. Not tragic. Calculated. Like something had been unraveling beneath the surface for a long time. Darren slipped the phone into his pocket. I should go. What? I shouldn't have come here. You're not leaving until you explain what's happening. His jaw clenched. Then he said something that changed everything. They know about you. A cold sensation crawled up my spine. Who knows about me? He stared directly into my eyes and whispered, the people downstairs. I frowned immediately. What people downstairs? Darren looked toward the floor beneath us. My apartment building was old. 5 floors. Narrow hallways. Faded carpets. Mostly quiet tenants. The basement level was used for storage units and maintenance equipment. Nothing unusual. At least that is what I believed. Until Darren grabbed my wrist hard enough to hurt. You need to listen carefully, he whispered. Every instinct in my body suddenly screamed that something terrible was coming. They are not who you think they are. Before I could respond, 3 loud knocks hit my apartment door. Not normal knocking. Heavy. Deliberate. Authoritative. Darren went completely pale. And that was the exact moment I realized my best friend was hiding something far worse than I could possibly imagine. There is a very specific kind of fear that enters a room before violence does. It is quiet. Patient. It does not scream or crash through windows. It simply changes the air. And standing there in my apartment with Darren staring at the front door like a man watching his own execution approach, I felt that fear for the first time in my life. The knocking came again. Slower this time. 3 hard knocks. The sound echoed through the apartment walls. Neither of us moved. Rain continued battering the windows behind us while thunder rolled low across the city skyline. Somewhere down on the street below, a car alarm chirped briefly before cutting off again. Darren's grip tightened painfully around my wrist. Do not answer that door, he whispered. His voice sounded nothing like himself anymore. Not confident. Not rational. Desperate. Who is it? I whispered back. They found me faster than I thought. Every muscle in my body tensed. What are you talking about? Another knock. This time louder. Whoever stood outside was not leaving. I carefully stepped backward and pulled my wrist free from Darren's hand. My heartbeat was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. Darren, listen to me, he hissed. Whatever happens next, do not trust them. Them who? Before he could answer, a voice came through the door. Building security. Darren's face changed instantly. Not relief. Terror. Pure terror. I frowned immediately. Our building did not even have security. It had an old superintendent named Howard who smoked constantly and complained about noise violations. That was it. Darren shook his head slowly. No, he muttered under his breath. No, no, no. The voice came again. Sir, we need you to open the door. I looked toward Darren. Sweat glistened across his forehead despite the cold temperature inside the apartment. Something inside me wanted to ignore him completely and open the door immediately. But another part of me, a deeper instinct, was starting to realize this situation was very real, very dangerous. The knocking stopped. Silence filled the apartment. Then came footsteps outside. More than one person. Slow movement across the hallway. Darren backed away from the door like an animal cornered by hunters. We have to go, he whispered. What? Now. Go where? Anywhere but here. I stared at him in disbelief. You still haven't told me what the hell is happening. His eyes locked onto mine. And for the first time since he arrived, I saw genuine guilt there. Not fear. Not paranoia. Guilt. I never wanted you involved. That sentence hit me harder than I expected. Involved in what? He hesitated. Then another sound froze both of us completely. A faint metallic clank. From somewhere inside the apartment building. Below us. The basement. Darren heard it too. I could tell immediately. His breathing became shallow again. They're moving already, he muttered. What does that mean? He suddenly rushed toward my kitchen window and carefully pulled back the blinds just enough to peek outside. His entire body stiffened. Oh God. I walked over quickly. What? He moved aside. Down on the street below, parked across from my apartment building, sat a black SUV. Engine running. Headlights off. 2 men inside. Watching the building. Rainwater slid across the windshield while the orange glow of nearby streetlights reflected across the hood. Neither man moved. Neither looked away. An icy sensation spread through my chest. Who are they? Darren stepped back from the window immediately. We need to leave right now. He moved toward the hallway. Toward the rear fire escape connected through the laundry corridor. I followed instinctively. Darren, stop. He turned sharply. His expression looked fractured now. like a man struggling to hold reality together. There isn't time. For what? He swallowed hard, then finally said it. I made a mistake. Silence. Rain hammered outside. The refrigerator hummed softly in the kitchen. Every tiny sound suddenly felt unnaturally loud. What kind of mistake? His eyes shifted downward. I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. A chill crawled through me. What did you see? He looked toward the floor again, toward the basement beneath us. And that was when the lights in my apartment flickered. Once, twice. Then the entire apartment went dark. Everything disappeared instantly. The hum of appliances died. The soft yellow lamp beside my couch vanished. Only the storm outside remained, flashing occasional bursts of pale lightning through the windows. My pulse exploded. What the hell? Darren grabbed my arm violently. Quiet. We stood motionless in darkness. Then came another sound. Not from outside. Not from the hallway. From inside the building. A heavy metal door creaking open somewhere below us. Slowly. Followed by footsteps. Several pairs. Ascending. Coming upward through the stairwell. Closer. Closer. I could hear them clearly now. Measured. Organized. Not random movement. Purposeful. Darren leaned close to my ear. They cut the power. Who are these people? They run everything under this building. That makes no sense. You think the basement is storage? He whispered harshly. It isn't. Lightning flashed outside. For half a second the apartment illuminated bright white. And in that brief instant I saw Darren's face clearly. He looked broken, like a man who had not escaped something, but brought it with him. Darkness swallowed us again. The footsteps continued climbing. Third floor. Then fourth. My floor. I suddenly realized something horrifying. Whoever these people were, they already knew exactly where we were. A beam of light suddenly swept beneath my apartment door. Flashlights. Multiple. Moving slowly. Methodically. I backed away instinctively. My breathing had become uneven now. Fast. Sharp. My brain struggled to process what was happening logically. This could not be real. None of this made sense. Darren crouched beside the living room wall and motioned for me to get down. I obeyed automatically. Another voice sounded outside the apartment. Different from the first one. Calm. Cold. Darren. The way he said the name made my blood run cold. Not angry. Not rushed. Familiar. Like this was a routine conversation. We know you're inside. Darren closed his eyes. They found the tracker, he whispered. What tracker? He ignored me completely. The voice outside continued. You made this much harder than it needed to be. Silence. Then another voice. We are authorized to recover the material. Material. Not person. Material. I looked toward Darren slowly. What did you do? He stared at the floor, and finally answered. I took something. The hallway outside went silent again. Then, a deafening crash exploded against my front door. I flinched violently. Wood splintered near the lock. Another hit came immediately after. Harder. The entire frame shook. Oh my God, I whispered. Darren grabbed my shoulder. Back hallway. Now. The door slammed again behind us as we rushed toward the laundry corridor near the rear fire escape. The apartment was almost completely black except for occasional flashes of lightning from outside. My shoulders smashed against the hallway wall as we ran. Behind us, another brutal impact hit the front door. Wood cracked loudly. They're coming through. I shouted. I know. We reached the laundry corridor. Darren shoved open the narrow metal door leading toward the rear staircase. Cold rain blasted inside instantly. Wind roared through the alley beyond. The fire escape rattled violently against the building exterior. Move. Darren barked. I stepped onto the slick metal staircase carefully while rain soaked through my clothes almost immediately. The city below looked distorted beneath sheets of water and blurred neon reflections. We descended rapidly. Fourth floor. Third floor. Second floor. Then Darren froze suddenly. I nearly crashed into him. What are you doing? He stared downward through the staircase gaps. At the alley below. My stomach dropped instantly. Two figures stood near the bottom exit. Waiting. Black raincoats. Motionless. Looking up at us. They already knew. Darren cursed under his breath. We go back up. What? They boxed us in. Before I could respond, the rear stairwell door above us burst open. Flashlights swept violently across the fire escape. Voices shouted. They're outside. My heart nearly stopped. We were trapped. Above us. Below us. Rain pouring. Metal stairs shaking beneath our feet. And Darren suddenly looked at me with an expression I will never forget. Because in that moment, he realized there was only one place left to go. The basement. The moment Darren said we had to go into the basement, every instinct inside me rebelled against it. Because by then, deep down, I already knew something was terribly wrong with that place. Not suspicious. Not creepy. Wrong. The kind of wrong your body recognizes before your mind does. Rainwater dripped from my hair onto the metal staircase while voices echoed above us through the storm. Flashlights swept across the fire escape. The men upstairs were descending carefully now. Not rushing. Confident. Like people who already knew the outcome. The two figures below remained motionless near the alley exit, their dark raincoats blending into the shadows beside overflowing trash bins and rusted pipes. We were trapped between them. Darren grabbed my arm. Move. He pushed past me and climbed back upward toward the fifth floor landing. I followed reluctantly, my shoes slipping slightly on the wet metal steps. My pulse thundered in my ears. The storm had transformed the city into something surreal. Neon lights bled across puddles below, while distant sirens wailed somewhere far away. Every building window looked cold and detached, filled with strangers completely unaware that my life was unraveling in real time. We slipped back through the rear stairwell door into the building. Darkness swallowed us again immediately. Only faint emergency lights glowed dim red along the hallway ceilings. The building suddenly felt unfamiliar. Hostile. Like the walls themselves were hiding something. The pounding at my apartment door had stopped. That terrified me more than the noise had. Darren moved quickly down the corridor toward the main stairwell. I grabbed his jacket. Stop. He turned sharply. You need to tell me what's going on right now. There's no time. There has to be time. He stared at me for several seconds. And then something changed in his expression. Defeat. Like he finally understood there was no hiding this anymore. He lowered his voice. About 8 months ago, I started doing freelance security work. I frowned immediately. What kind of security work? The kind that pays too much. Not reassuring. At first it seemed legitimate. He continued quietly while listening for movement around us. Private transportation jobs. Surveillance systems. Security audits for corporate properties. His breathing steadied slightly as he spoke, but I could still hear fear underneath every word. Then one night they sent me somewhere underground. A cold sensation crept across my neck. Underground where? I don't know exactly. Somewhere outside the city. Old industrial area maybe. He rubbed his face. They took my phone before we entered. No windows. No signs. Nothing. Lightning flashed faintly through the stairwell window nearby. Darren looked exhausted now. Like the memory itself was draining him. At first I thought it was illegal gambling or trafficking or something like that. My stomach tightened. But it wasn't. What was it? He looked directly at me. And for the first time in 15 years, I saw genuine horror in my best friend's eyes. People. I stared at him silently. What do you mean people? They were experimenting on them. The words did not register immediately. My brain rejected them automatically. That's not funny. I'm not joking. What kind of experiments? His jaw tightened. I don't fully know. That's impossible. They kept most of us compartmentalized, he snapped quietly. Nobody knew everything. Only their own assignments. Who are they? I never learned the real name. That doesn't make sense. You think they introduced themselves like normal people? His frustration broke through for a moment, then faded immediately into fear again. Darren leaned closer. You know what the worst part was? I said nothing. They looked normal. The hallway remained silent around us, except for distant thunder outside. No evil scientist nonsense, he continued. No secret underground prison aesthetic. Just regular people wearing office clothes, carrying coffee cups, discussing human beings like inventory. A shiver crawled through me. They monitored behavior, reactions, memory patterns, emotional triggers. I stared at him. What are you saying? I'm saying I should have walked away immediately. My breathing slowed, because suddenly, very suddenly, certain details began aligning in my mind. The paranoia, the fear, the black SUV outside, the people chasing us. This was either the most elaborate psychotic breakdown imaginable, or Darren was telling the truth. And I still did not know which possibility scared me more. A noise echoed faintly below us. A stairwell door opening somewhere downstairs. Darren heard it too. He motioned downward. We have to keep moving. We descended quietly through the emergency stairwell toward the lower floors. The deeper we went, the colder the building became. By the second floor, the air smelled faintly metallic. By the first floor, I noticed another odor underneath it. Bleach. Strong bleach. The lobby-level emergency lights flickered weakly overhead as we stepped out cautiously. Everything looked deserted. Mailboxes lined the walls beside faded beige paint and cracked tile flooring. Rainwater blew against the glass entrance doors while shadows shifted outside from passing headlights. No one at the front desk. No sound from neighboring apartments. Nothing. Darren moved toward the basement access hallway near the maintenance room. I stopped again. You still haven't explained why they're after me. He hesitated, then quietly said, because they think I told you. My chest tightened instantly. Told me what? To find out what I was told and what happened next, kindly check the channel for part 2. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.